So, I mean, forget petroleum, right? Forget traditional fiat currencies or gold even.
Yeah, those are almost legacy assets at this point.
Exactly. We are sitting here in 2026, and I want you to just imagine the absolute primary determinant of global power today, like military superiority, economic resilience. It's not pumped out of the ground anymore.
No, it's really not.
And it's not stored in a vault in Fort Knox. It is literally just the capacity to design and fabricate nanoscale transistors.
It is a profound historical pivot. We've essentially taken the entire geopolitical weight of the 20th century, right? Things like navigable waterways, massive oil reserves, strategic land bridges, and we've literally shrunk all of that down to the atomic level.
Wild.
The balance of global power is quite literally measured in nanometers now.
Well, welcome to a custom deep dive prepared specifically for you. Today, our mission is to unpack what we're basically calling the new chip war.
Right, because it really is a war.
It absolutely is. We are going to look at how the global semiconductor supply chain has just completely fractured. I mean, over the last few years, we've transitioned from this beautifully synchronized, hyper-efficient, globalized network into, well, a highly fragmented techno-nationalist battlefield.
This isn't just a niche topic for defense contractors or like high-level tech executives.
Definitely not.
It touches everything. Whether you are actively tracking global financial markets or, you're just sitting at home wondering why your consumer tech is suddenly getting so much more expensive, to upgrade understanding this silicon power struggle is truly the ultimate shortcut to being well-informed right now.
Okay, so let's unpack this. Because before we can really understand the war, we have to understand the prize, right?
Yeah, the motivation behind all of it.
Right. Why are the stakes suddenly so astronomically high in 2026? I mean, it feels like semiconductors have been around forever. We've had chips and things for decades. Why the sudden panic?
Well, the panic is really driven by sheer scale and this massive structural divergence in what we are actually building.
Okay, what do you mean by structural divergence?
So, to give you a sense of the numbers, the semiconductor industry as a whole has reached an estimated $975 billion in annual sales this year.
Wow. So we are basically knocking on the door of $1 trillion.
Exactly. And that growth is driven almost entirely by this AI demand supercycle. But here is the critical divergence. Generative AI chips account for roughly 50% of the industry's total revenue right now.
Okay, 50% of the money.
Right. But physically, in terms of actual units, they represent just 0.2% of the total global chip volume.
Wait, really? 0.2%?
Yeah. We are talking about fewer than 20 million physical units driving half the money in a near trillion-dollar industry.
That structural divergence is just wild. It's like a diamond mine,
That's actually a great way to look at it.
Yeah, it's like you're moving mountains of earth, which would be the billions of cheap legacy chips that go into our cars, our refrigerators, our toasters, just to extract a tiny, ultra-valuable handful of gems.
Yep.
And those gems are these generative AI chips. But mechanically, like on a physical level, why is that one specific AI chip so much more valuable than, say, the chip in my microwave?
It all comes down to architecture. A microwave chip or even a standard computer processor, it's designed to do things sequentially.
Like one calculation after another.
Exactly, very quickly, but one at a time. An AI chip, particularly the ones driving these huge large language models, it has to process massive amounts of data in parallel.
So all at once.
Right.
Ugh.
It requires billions of microscopic transistors packed incredibly close together to handle the simultaneous math required for machine learning. And manufacturing that specific architecture is, honestly, it's arguably the most complex physical process human beings have ever engineered.
Which brings us to a massive physical bottleneck, I'm guessing. Because these digital diamonds, they don't just sit on a desk looking pretty.
No, they definitely do not.
They have to be plugged in.
And they are devouring power at a rate that is fundamentally altering global power grids.
Really? Like altering the grid itself?
Oh, absolutely. By 2027, AI data centers are projected to require 92 gigawatts of power capacity.
92 gigawatts. Let's just pause on that for a second. That is, isn't that approaching the total power generation capacity of the entire state of California?
Yes, it is roughly equivalent.
Just to run AI data centers.
Yeah.
So considering that 92 gigawatt figure, is the real limit to the AI revolution the complex silicon itself? Or is it literally just finding enough electricity to turn the machines on?
Honestly, it is the collision of the two. I mean, the intersection of limitless digital demand with very strict physical commodity markets, that's our new reality.
Because you can't just code more electricity.
Exactly. And it's not just the electricity flowing into the chips either. It's the cooling systems required to keep those chips from melting down. It's the massive transformers, the grid expansions. All of this demands vast quantities of physical materials. Copper, precious metals, rare earth elements.
So whoever controls the advanced compute and the physical power to run that compute.
They effectively control the future of the digital economy.
Wow. So if this specific type of advanced compute is the new oil, global superpowers are obviously not going to just let the free market sort it out.
No, definitely not.
They're actively stepping in to control the supply lines. Let's look at the strategy coming from the U.S. and its allies. Because from the outside, it looks like a really aggressive choke point strategy.
Very aggressive. I mean, we are seeing legislation like the AI Overwatch Act fundamentally redefine how we categorize commercial technology.
Definitely.
Well, the legislation explicitly treats advanced AI chips. So like
Yeah.
the latest architectures from NVIDIA or AMD, it treats them as if they were defense munitions.
Munitions, like weapons.
Exactly. It applies the same regulatory severity to a commercial silicon wafer that it would to like a cruise missile.
That is intense. And beyond just the export licenses, the economic penalties are really steep, right?
Yeah, the U.S. implemented a 25% tariff on advanced AI chip imports intended for non-U.S. supply chains.
But the part that really fascinated me was the diplomatic pressure.
Hmm.
Like, they leaned heavily on allies. Specifically, they pressured the Netherlands to completely block the sale of EUV lithography machines to China.
Right, extreme ultraviolet machines.
Yeah, EUV. Just to make sure we're all on the same page here, what exactly is an EUV machine doing in this process?
So lithography is essentially the printing press for a microchip.
Yeah.
An EUV machine uses light that is generated by, and this sounds like sci-fi, but blasting microscopic droplets of tin with a high-powered laser.
Wait, they shoot lasers at tin droplets?
Yeah, to create extreme ultraviolet light. And then this light is bounced off a series of the flattest mirrors ever created by humanity just to carve circuits into a silicon wafer.
Wow.
And these circuits are literally smaller than a virus.
That is unbelievable.
And the kicker is, these machines cost hundreds of millions of dollars each. And only one company in the entire world, ASML in the Netherlands, can actually make them.
So the U.S. strategy is essentially, if you don't have the printer, you can't print the chips.
Pretty much.
They're trying to build a silicon curtain and freeze adversaries at older legacy tech nodes by just denying them the tools entirely.
Precisely. But, China views this historical reliance on foreign semiconductors as its absolute most critical strategic vulnerability.
Right, they aren't just going to take that sitting down.
No, they are not passively accepting the silicon curtain at all. They are retaliating under a paradigm of what they call innovation under pressure, and they are leveraging the one area where they hold an absolute monopoly.
Raw materials.
Exactly.
Because you can't build advanced tech without the basic building blocks. And the numbers here are staggering. I mean, China controls 90% of global neodymium refining.
Yep.
And 80% of global gallium.
Which are materials that are absolutely essential for advanced manufacturing, radar systems, defense electronics, you name it.
Right.
And to weaponize this, China has instituted these highly sophisticated trace controls.
Okay, walk us through that. How does a trace control actually work in practice?
Yeah.
Like, how does controlling a raw metal shut down a whole advanced tech supply chain?
It basically weaponizes the downstream paperwork.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So let's say an American defense contractor is building a next-generation fighter jet. Somewhere deep inside the radar array of that jet is a tiny sensor.
Okay.
If that sensor uses even a single microgram of Chinese refined gallium, China's trace controls dictate that the entire downstream product requires an export license.
Wait, really? The whole jet?
A whole jet. They can effectively freeze the sale or production of that entire aircraft simply by flagging the microscopic trace element at the very beginning of the supply chain.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. They are paralyzing Western defense contractors and high-tech manufacturers by basically weaponizing regulatory compliance.
It's a total bureaucratic landmine. But, here is where the narrative really pivots for me. Because we implemented all these sanctions and choke points to cripple our adversaries' capabilities, right?
Yeah, that's a goal. Yeah.
But it looks like we're dealing with a massive case of biological resistance. It's like overusing antibiotics.
That's a really good comparison.
By constantly hitting them with sanctions, we didn't eradicate their tech sector. We essentially created a superbug. Like, we forced them to build complete immunity to Western supply chains.
The law of unintended consequences is certainly hitting hard here. I mean, look at Huawei.
Right.
By cutting them off from global suppliers and U.S. intellectual property, the intent was to systematically dismantle their mobile and telecom business.
To just shut them down.
Exactly. But instead, it forced an existential pivot. Huawei had no choice but to become completely fiercely self-reliant.
And the result, I mean, by 2024, despite all those years of crushing sanctions, Huawei actually expanded its global telecom market share?
Yes, to 34%.
That is insane. And it's not just telecom equipment either. It's the actual silicon manufacturing. You mentioned earlier that the Netherlands blocked China's premier chip maker, SMIC, from buying those crucial EUV printing machines.
Right, the $100 million printers.
Yeah. But somehow, SMIC successfully produced a 7-nanometer processor for Huawei's new smartphones anyway.
They did, and they achieved it using older, deep ultraviolet or DUV machines.
Wait, hold on. I need to push back on this a little bit.
Sure.
If they can just build these highly advanced 7-nanometer chips using the older DUV machines, why do we care so much about blocking the newer EUV machines in the first place? Isn't that a massive loophole that makes the whole embargo kind of pointless?
It's a fantastic question, and it really comes down to the mechanics of what the industry calls multi-patterning.
Multi-patterning.
Yeah, think of it this way. Imagine trying to paint a microscopic, highly intricate maze on a canvas, but your paintbrush is simply too thick.
Okay, so you can't get the fine details.
Right, you can't paint the fine lines in a single pass.
Because the older DUV light wavelength is just...
Too wide. It's too wide compared to the ultra-thin EUV light.
Got it.
So to solve this with a thick paintbrush, you have to use a series of complex stencils. You paint one layer, you shift the stencil slightly, you paint another layer, and you repeat this process sometimes 3 or 4 times to create the necessary detail.
Oh, wow.
That is multi-patterning. Now, does it work? Yes. But it is agonizingly slow. It is incredibly expensive, and it's highly prone to errors.
Because you have to line it up perfectly every single time.
Exactly. The more times you expose the wafer, the higher the chance of a defect. So SMIC's yield, which is the number of viable chips they actually get per wafer, is significantly lower than Western fabs using EUV.
Ah, so it's a brute force method. They are basically just throwing time and money at the problem to compensate for not having the right tool.
Exactly. I mean, it's a Pyrrhic victory economically, but geopolitically, it proves a crucial point. Absolute technological denial is nearly impossible.
Life finds a way, essentially.
Right. Sanctions can delay a well-funded nation-state, and they can make the process incredibly inefficient, but they cannot entirely halt its progression. The Silicon Curtain has essentially catalyzed this massively funded drive for self-reliance. It's officially dividing the world into competing, isolated tech ecosystems.
So if these trace controls and sanctions prove that international supply chains are essentially rigged with geopolitical landmines, what is the country supposed to do?
Well, you can't rely on imports anymore.
Right, which means you have to build these fabs at home, no matter the cost. So welcome to the most expensive subsidy race in modern history. We're basically watching governments completely abandon decades of free market economics.
Oh, absolutely. The capital flows right now are truly historic. We are seeing a wholesale pivot toward aggressive, state-backed industrial policy. And it's designed to reshore physical manufacturing, totally regardless of the immediate financial logic.
And the state funds being deployed are staggering, like truly staggering.
Yeah, in the U.S., you have the CHIPS and Science Act deploying $52.7 billion.
Right.
China's response is its Big Fund Phase 3, which injects another $48 billion into their domestic sector. And India just threw its hat in the ring with a $10.8 billion semiconductor mission.
It's massive. We are witnessing a total global shift from a just-in-time, hyper-globalized supply chain to this just-in-case regionalized fortress model.
Yeah, we're seeing this China plus one strategy everywhere now.
Right, where multinational corporations might keep their core operations in Asia, but they are aggressively building redundant fail-safe capacity in geographically de-risked zones.
Exactly.
But it goes beyond just the traditional players, too. We're seeing the rise of tech sovereignty economies, particularly in the Gulf. Like, look at the UAE.
Yeah, that's a perfect example.
They're building a massive 5-gigawatt AI data center project called the Stargate.
Right. Sovereign wealth funds are pivoting from their traditional playbook. buying Western real estate or legacy equities.
Right, the usual investments.
Yeah, instead, they are now actively building indigenous AI ecosystems to ensure they just aren't left behind by this computational divide.
But I have to challenge the sheer economics of this for a second.
Go for it.
The entire semiconductor industry was built on global hyper-efficiency. Taiwanese companies mastered manufacturing, American companies mastered design, the Dutch mastered lithography. When you force the duplication of these incredibly complex supply chains across different regions just for political safety,
Hmm.
the costs are astronomical.
They really are.
I mean, building a leading-edge fab outside of East Asia currently costs 30 to 50% more.
Yep, the premiums are huge.
You have elevated capital expenditures, you have stringent environmental regulations, higher labor costs, and that's just the money. The industry is facing a projected shortage of 70,000 specialized engineers by 2030.
That's a major bottleneck.
You can't just print advanced chemical engineers.
You really cannot.
It's as if every country in the world suddenly decided they must grow their own coffee beans in expensive climate-controlled greenhouses just because they don't trust international shipping routes anymore.
That's a funny way to put it, but it's accurate.
So what does this actually achieve? Aren't we just subsidizing a massive trillion-dollar inefficiency?
Well, structurally, yes, we are. But the paradigm has entirely shifted.
How so?
In 2026, geopolitical resilience has officially outbid financial efficiency. That structural inflation you're talking about, that 30 to 50% premium on manufacturing in Arizona or Germany, that is no longer viewed as an economic penalty.
It's just the cost of doing business.
It is now the literal accepted price of national security. The risk of relying on a single geographic choke point has simply become too catastrophic for any superpower to tolerate.
And this is where the massive global chess game crashes right into the listener's daily life, doesn't it?
Oh, entirely.
Because this trillion-dollar inefficiency, it doesn't just stay in government halls or inside a sterile megafab. It directly dictates global stock markets, and it directly hits your pocketbook. So let's talk about the HBM capacity crunch.
Right, the memory issue.
Yeah, because this connects the AI data center straight to the laptop sitting on your desk.
Mhm.
First, just fundamentally, what exactly is HBM?
So HBM stands for high bandwidth memory. Remember when we discussed how AI processors need to handle massive amounts of data in parallel?
Right, the simultaneous math.
Exactly. Well, standard computer memory, like the traditional DRAM in your laptop,
Yeah.
it can't feed data to an AI chip fast enough. It basically creates a traffic jam.
Okay.
HBM solves this by fundamentally changing the architecture. Instead of laying memory chips flat on a circuit board like a sprawling suburb, HBM stacks the memory chips vertically.
Like a skyscraper.
Yes, exactly like a skyscraper, and it connects them directly to the processor.
So it's much faster.
Oh,
But
yeah.
I imagine building a microscopic skyscraper is a lot harder than building a suburb.
Significantly harder. It requires significantly more raw silicon wafer area, and the manufacturing yields are much lower because the vertical stacking process is just so incredibly delicate.
Right.
But because AI companies are willing to pay astronomical premiums for this specific memory, the major fabrication plants have ruthlessly redirected their production lines.
Wow.
Yeah, fabs are literally abandoning standard consumer memory to chase the AI profit margins.
And the downstream effect of that is immediate scarcity for everyone else.
Exactly.
Because they stopped printing regular memory, traditional DRAM prices have spiked by 130%.
It completely broke the traditional economics of the consumer electronics market.
And we are seeing the fallout. I mean, global PC and smartphone markets are actually expected to shrink this year. The PC market could drop by up to 9% in 2026.
Yeah, the demand destruction is real.
And original equipment manufacturers, companies like Dell and Lenovo, they're being forced to hike their retail prices by 15 to 20% just to cover the spiked cost of the memory shortage.
Right.
So if you've been wondering why upgrading your laptop or phone suddenly costs a fortune, it's because the memory chip inside it literally lost a turf war to an AI data center.
And, this tension isn't just hitting consumer retail. The financial markets are reacting violently to these crosscurrents, too. We saw this clearly in early 2026 with what analysts dubbed the Great Rotation.
Right, the Great Rotation. The moment the market realized that tech valuations were built on a razor's edge.
Precisely.
Because despite companies like nvidia sitting on a jaw-dropping $5 trillion market cap, institutional money suddenly fled these overextended semiconductor stocks and rotated heavily into defense, utilities, and financials.
Yeah, the problem was that the valuation multiples, the price investors were willing to pay for these tech stocks, they assumed a perfectly frictionless global supply chain.
Which we definitely do not have.
Right. They left absolutely zero margin for geopolitical error. And the market finally woke up to the fact that all this incredible tech wealth is fundamentally constrained by export licenses, trace controls, and very fragile physical realities.
And the ultimate physical reality, like the ultimate black swan risk that keeps everyone up at night,
Right.
sits right in the Taiwan Strait.
Yes. The Taiwan choke point.
Yeah.
TSMC, the Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, they manufacture roughly 90% of the world's most advanced logic chips.
90%
Yeah.
for the entire planet.
It is the most critical single point of failure in the modern global economy. Period.
Wow.
If there is any kinetic conflict or even just a sustained naval and aerial blockade of Taiwan, it would instantly sever the global supply of advanced compute.
We wouldn't just be talking about expensive laptops at that point.
Oh, not at all. The resulting economic shock would eclipse the 2008 financial crisis by orders of magnitude.
Seriously?
Yeah. You wouldn't be able to build cars, medical equipment, telecommunications infrastructure, or modern defense systems.
Wow.
It would force a catastrophic repricing of global equities and bring the entire AI revolution to a devastating halt.
So we're basically balancing incredible frictionless AI-driven productivity on one side of the scale and absolute catastrophic supply chain paralysis on the other.
That's exactly where we are.
Given all these vulnerabilities, from the looming threat over Taiwan down to the artificial memory crunch inflating the cost of our cell phones, just how fragile is our everyday digital reality right now?
I mean, it is existing on a knife's edge. Yeah. The seamless, invisible technology supply chain that we have completely taken for granted for the last 30 years, it's gone.
Wow.
Our digital reality, the ease with which we connect and compute, is now actively tethered to the daily, volatile shifts in great power diplomacy.
So, to synthesize this entire briefing for you,
Yeah.
the era of hyper-globalization is officially over. We have entered a completely new epoch.
We really have.
For the foreseeable future,
Yeah.
the global economy is no longer dictated by the invisible hand of the free market optimizing for the lowest cost. It is dictated by the very visible hand of statecraft, meticulously and aggressively guiding the relentless flow of silicon.
Which leaves us with one final and perhaps pretty unsettling thought to mull over.
Okay, what's that?
Well, we've talked extensively today about the hundreds of billions of dollars, the massive energy grids rivaling entire states, and the high-stakes geopolitical brinkmanship, right?
Yeah, all mobilized to build these ultimate AI supercomputers.
Exactly. But with the exponential rate at which these machine learning models are advancing, how long will it be until the AI itself figures out how to design entirely new, non-silicon computing architectures?
Oh, man.
Right. We might just wake up one day to find that this entire trillion-dollar human geopolitical war over tiny transistors has been rendered completely obsolete by the very intelligence it was built to create.
Wow. A trillion-dollar war over a physical resource that might just engineer its own replacement.
It's a real possibility.
We want to thank you for joining us on this custom deep dive today. We hope this comprehensive look at the new chip war gave you that vital shortcut to being thoroughly well-informed on the forces quietly running our world.
Absolutely.
Until next time, keep questioning the invisible infrastructure around you. Because as we've seen today, the biggest battles defining our future are being fought over the absolute smallest territories.